I don't feel it. I don't feel it. I don't feel this love of America. I think this man was, when I talk about his background, I'm talking about a man who grew up under the influence of Frank Marshall Davis, who was a member of the Communist Party, who he refers to over and over in his book, who was a tremendous critic of the United States. This is a man who worked under Saul Alinsky, who was a tremendous critic of the United States. I believe his initial approach is to criticize this country and then afterwards to say a few nice things about us.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining us now is Jack Cashill, independent writer and producer and best-selling author. And Jack, you wrote a great piece at American Thinker, and the title, very provocative, was Giuliani the first to use the F word, F as in Frank, Frank as in Frank Marshall Davis. And this is a name that I know and you know and many of my viewers know, but there's a lot of people out there, if you asked on the street, they would have absolutely no idea.
You know, Steve, it's like... are you familiar with the word shibboleth? You know what that means, right? And you know the history of that word? Apparently, and someone may correct me if my history is a little off, but in biblical times, if the Israelites knew how to pronounce the word shibboleth, and the Philistines didn't, so if a Philistine tried to sneak by the guard, they'd say shibboleth, and the Philistine would say, shibboleth, and then they'd throw a knife through him or something, you know? Well, a shibboleth on the right is Frank Marshall Davis. We use the word, and we know what we're talking about. We have a whole set of information about this person, but if we had it in, we were talking in mixed company, that is, you know, someone of vaguely left of us, and said, Frank Marshall Davis, they'd look at us like we were crazy. And then if we said that, you know, he was the card-carrying Communist Party number 47544, who mentored Obama during his formative years in Hawaii, about whom Obama wrote 2,500 words in Dreams from My Father, who about whom Obama wrote 2 poems when he was a teenager. You know, they'd say, "Oh, you're crazy. You're racist. You're an idiot." You know, I hear that all the time just for mentioning his name, and yet that's the truth.
And that speaks to if a teenager's writing poems about a man like that, or you know, about any figure in his life, he has a profound effect upon who that teenager could turn out to be. And if you look at the philosophy of the two men, that's what happened here.
Yes, and Obama was tutored by Davis from ages about 10 through 18. And those are, you know, entirely formative years.
Absolutely.
And the problem is that when Obama leaves Hawaii, he goes to Occidental, then he goes to Columbia, and he continues to be educated in the same kind of philosophy. That is, you know, and he talks about it in his book. You know, he talks about who his mentors were. He hung out with the communists and the anti-colonialists and all those sort of people. But what he does not have anywhere in his book is that road to Damascus moment, that epiphany where he says, "Oh, you know, now that I'm an adult, I see that my, you know, communist leanings of my youth were childish, and
right.
I'm going to put those aside. Now I embrace Americanism. I respect the Constitution of the United States. You know, blah 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 blah." No, that never happened.
No, in fact, in 2001, and I have the audio and video of it, he criticized the Constitution as a flawed document, and it's just you know, it's a sad state of affairs. It really is. But great piece. Let's briefly. We have a minute here. No surprise that George Zimmerman was not charged with any kind of civil rights violations.
No surprise at all, because they had, and what they're not saying is that they sent something like 35 FBI agents to Florida immediately after the incident, even before Zimmerman was tried, even before he was indicted.
It took them 3 years to come to this conclusion.
3 years, and they knew the answer in April of 2012. That is, they could not find anyone who ever heard Zimmerman using a racial epithet or saying anything unkind about black people.
Right. Because if they had, Jack, if they had the slightest bit, they would have tried it against this man. Yet in their release, and just to be interesting, they said, we don't condone the shooting, and we have to realize that a tragedy of a teenage life was lost. Meanwhile, the fact of the matter is, if there was no shooting, the tragedy of George Zimmerman's life probably would have been lost. Jack, thank you. Very good to talk to you as always. Folks, up next, it's Gimme 5. Don't go away.